and we basically look at each other and go, okay, so we've just doubled our production. This is the highest amount of production we have ever done, and now we've got no executive chef. I was thinking, oh my God, did I kill 2 companies with this move? All right, so this is the debriefing video for Hell Week. This is part 5 of 5. If you haven't watched the other videos, this is basically, well, I almost lost my company over this. We lost our chef. We doubled overnight. A whole bunch of craziness happened. If you haven't seen the other videos, this does a great job at giving you the overview of what happened that week, but definitely check out the other videos and you can see real-time footage of me sometimes deliriously recording what was going on at that time during a 24-hour shift and all the other chaos and reasons why we took on production for another meal plan company and, like I said, doubled overnight. Lost the chef, almost lost both of our companies, and let's just jump right into it. If you're not already subscribed, do that, hit the alerts, and check out the link below. I'll send you a free copy of my order tracking system that'll track up to 620 orders. I'll send you a free copy of the ebook, and you can reach out to me with any questions, comments, or feedback. Let's get right to it.
Welcome to our channel where we go behind the scenes of our meal plan company Fit Food Fresh and other local businesses across South Florida. Make sure you hit the subscribe and alerts so you never miss a video, and hit us with any questions or suggestions.
All right, so it's Sunday, December 1st. I get some text very early in the morning from our friend who owns the other meal plan company saying that it looks like he needs us to take over production and take over his Thursday delivery of food. Now, he's currently in production since it's Sunday. He's currently in production for the Monday delivery, so he had the first half of the week covered, and he wanted us to take care of the second half of the week. Now, in my other videos, I mentioned he was shut down by the fire inspector. They had been working out of a backup kitchen, a rental kitchen that he found, but it was like 50 or 70 miles away from his normal kitchen, so obviously getting there was a bit of a pain for the team. They had been promised, an ongoing promise of just one cook and then we'll be back at our normal kitchen. And it's like, hey, we didn't get past yet, just one cook, then we'll be back at our normal kitchen. So they've already been there for 2 or 3 cooks and they're just tired of driving the extra distance, working in a shared space where they're kind of cramped. It's not as big as their normal kitchen. There's a lot more rules and it's just a pain for them to kind of work in that environment and get there. So he asks us basically at the point of, it sounded like maybe the staff was about to commit a mutiny. He asked us if we could take over production. Now, this was very last minute. We normally have our orders in Sunday so we could have food delivered Monday. So we spent a few hours discussing the logistics. While on the phone with our friend, I basically texted the chef and said, hey, we're going to double overnight where you're going to have to cook a lot more food. So let's start planning what we're going to need in order to get that done. Several hours go by and we've got a lot planned out as far as how bag packing is going to work, how plating is going to work, how the delivery teams are going to line up in the parking lot. So we have his delivery guys and our delivery guys, and we've got as much as we can figured out about everything else except for production. Now, chef gives me a call at 4:08, and he basically, after seeing the numbers, he basically just starts having an issue, and it seemed to be very much involved with how much the other company was making, how much they were profiting. It was a lot of ego wrapped up into it, and I think I understand. He's a chef. These are his recipes. This is his hard work. It's like an artist. You don't want somebody else getting the credit for the hard work that you're putting into something. But this isn't art. These are products. This is, how this company makes money. And the more food that we sell, as long as every meal is profitable, the better for the company. And that's what I was trying to get him to understand is don't worry about how little work somebody else is doing to make their money. Focus on the fact that we have an opportunity right now in the dead of winter to make some extra money. Now, as I mentioned in other videos, Thanksgiving is brutal and Christmas and New Year's are brutal for the meal plan company. So November and December are really, really rough. Now, January comes, January through March, you'll have a lot of people doing resolutions and trying to get into summer bodies, and then summer kind of lulls for Florida. So we have 2 dead seasons, and it's summer because everyone leaves, people go on vacation, people are out of school, our snowbirds go back up north, and we have a lot less residents here. and it gets slow. Then we have November and December. So we're right in the middle of our, mini slow season. Thanksgiving had just passed. It was brutal. It was slow. We knew we had Christmas and New Year's around the corner. So I was trying to get Chef to understand how valuable this opportunity was if it was done the right way. But he was just focused on how much money this other guy's making. He kept saying, this guy's making money for fucking scratching his balls and stuff like that. And it was obviously an ego issue, and we've had these issues with him in the past where there's been other meal plan companies that we've been trying to acquire, or for whatever reason, it makes sense for us to partner up and help them out on production. And Chef was very consumed with how much money somebody else was making off of his work, and that's regardless of who's doing what. He's paid to do a certain job, and it's what's better for the company, what's better for his team is to be. And this wasn't a level of volume that we shouldn't have been able to pull off. We explicitly told him to hire in order to accommodate about doubling, and our team has basically been at that level for over a year. We should be doing twice the volume for the amount of people that we have back there. So we should have been prepared and staffed for that already. Now, we were missing some materials, we were missing some, sheet pans and whatever else. But aside from that, the amount of bodies and skill in here should have made this not a problem. But unfortunately, Chef was more focused on arguing about this and trying to create more problems instead of focusing on a solution. The orders on Sunday have to be in by 4:30. He called me at 4:08 to argue for hours, and then after 5 o'clock, part of his argument became the fact that he couldn't even get an order in, so he'd have to do it in the morning, and then it'd all have to be all the extra ingredients would have to be picked up at will call, and that would be hours before they can get the order and collect everything. And then someone has to drive up about 45 minutes, an hour away from our location, load everything onto a truck and bring it down here, because we wouldn't be able to have a delivery done in time to get everything into production. And we needed to get this food in as soon as possible. Proteins need to be trimmed to put in marinades, and all this other stuff has to be going on, and we just doubled our order. So we're not going to have enough food in the building Monday. And his argument became, well, we won't be able to put the order in time. Now, had he focused on the solution, now I originally texted him about this at 11, and he got his numbers probably around 3. But instead of putting in the order, which he had time to do, he actually wasted that time to argue and point out problems and say that this was going to be hard to do and it's not fair and that the other company was making too much money. So, didn't start this off right. Well, the other company the owner had to go and rent a vehicle, which took a few hours. He had an issue with his license, so somebody else had to rent it. And all these issues arose from him having to pick this up again because the order wasn't done in time. Now, he spent hours figuring out how to get a truck, how to get the materials down here, finally got it here. Production started late, no surprise, and we ended up falling way behind right out the gate. Now, mind you, on Sunday when I spoke with Chef, I spoke with him for hours. Instead of decorating a Christmas tree with my family, I was outside having a discussion with our chef, and at one point I had to bring my business partner in on the call just so I could have a second voice of reasoning saying, I just needed another witness to what was going on. Now, I tried to pull it away from him 3 different times, at least one of which my business partner was on the phone for, where I said, you know what, Chef, I'm going to call our buddy, I'm going to tell him we can't do this, and then he would say, no, I'm not saying it's I'm not saying it's impossible, we can do it, it's just going to be a lot of work. So 3 different times I tried pulling this away from him, and he still gave us the impression that this was going to be something that was doable. And from our perspective, it seemed like and we had a discussion about this, his entire problem was the fact that somebody else was making money off of his work. And unfortunately, he focused too much on that and not on some things that became much bigger issues. So now Monday, we have the food getting in late, as I said, which means prep starts late, which means the cooking and everything else is going to be late. Now, we have a longer cook period for the Monday delivery, Preparation will start sometimes Thursday. So we have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then food goes out. So that's 4 days potentially of prep or in production. With the second half of the cook, we only have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then it goes out Wednesday night. So we have one less day to get all this stuff done, and we're already starting late. So this is ugly. Now on Monday, Chef said that he's going to need a lot of bodies to make up for the lost time. So we called in on the other meal plan company, and we asked them to send whoever they had to help us out with some prep and plating and whatever else in the kitchen. Unfortunately, it seemed like the majority of his skilled culinary people had second jobs, and they picked up some extra shifts there, so they were doing that instead, working at restaurants or whatever else. His chef actually took his family to Disney World. Again, these people were told that they basically had the week off because we were going to do the production, so they made other plans. Some committed to making money at their other jobs, others took some time off for their family, and unfortunately we only had, I think, like 2 or 3 people show up. And those people really weren't skilled. They were his platers. And they are, when you get into this, you'll see you have a plating team. They're basically good at following directions. And if you have someone telling them what to do, they can do that. But as far as skill, knife skills and prep skills and cooking and everything else, there's a big difference between having a skilled body and, someone who's unskilled. And there's only so much that they can do. So a lot of times they were standing around just trying to stay out of the way because there was nothing at that time that they could do. Now, there was a little bit of a communication game, and even though Chef and I had explicit conversations about how because he fought me on this, and I said it has to be done this way, but a major issue was I said the plating has to be done together. When you're taking out the ingredients to plate a certain dish, you want to make the mess once. If I've got to go into a fridge and I've got to pull out a speed rack of broccoli, and I've got to pull out a speed rack of chicken, and I've got to pull out a speed rack of, whatever the pasta, I got to pull out all the sauces, I could be plating the Fit Food Fresh meals and the other company's meals in their different containers at the same time, instead of pulling out all that stuff, making a mess, because plating is a messy game, and unfortunately, no matter how good you are, there's rice that's going to drop, there's going to be some, sauce that's going to get dropped. So you're going to make a mess, clean up, just to pull those ingredients out again and plate the exact same meal just in a different container. Doesn't make any sense. But he kept on saying, we're going to plate our food first, then we'll plate their food if there's time. And I was like, that's unacceptable. So he, despite what I had conversations with him about, he decided to tell our team that the other company's employees were responsible for plating their food, and all we had to worry about was our food. Now, we didn't find this out until the employees who showed up to help ended up telling their chef, who's at Disney World, who then called the owner, who then called my business partner, who then called me, because everyone thought that this was just the Fit Food Fresh decision, that we were going to plate it this way. And it got back to me, so then I had to call that business owner and just say, dude, didn't know what that was going on. This was already towards the end of the day. We had corrected it by the time I had heard, and everyone was starting to plate at that time, but they started plating so late that it screwed everything up. They stayed late that night. I think we were here until midnight and with the sous chef. Chef went home. The next day was an even crazier day. I ended up leaving at, I think, 5 a.m., came in, spent a lot of time trying to help the kitchen with whatever, helped with plating and things like that. And unfortunately, everything just went late. We had some people in the kitchen who had to help us stay, and they stayed very late. And it was just brutal. There was a point in that day where I was on the phone with Chef, and he was, basically threatening all these things, saying, I'm not going to cook their food, whatever else. And I was, again, trying to get him to understand that this is what's good for the company. This isn't money that's going into my pocket and going to buy a new motorcycle for me. This is going to help this company survive. And maybe if everything goes well, we might be able to actually bonus people during what is financially a very crippling month. We might be able to actually bonus people. We're trying to give people off. We want to give people time off and paid vacation to spend with their family for Christmas and New Year's. This is only going to be possible if the company stays in business. Otherwise, they won't have a job to come back to. So getting some extra income would really help that out a lot. And I was begging with him, and I was like, what are you going to do? Your life is so cushy here. You've got such a predictable schedule. Like, everything is so good here. What else are you going to do? Because you're making it sound like you don't care about this job. He's like, I don't care. I'll go flip burgers. And he started like listing off all these issues and just finding all these problems, stuff that happened in the past, stuff that's been fixed. He was just all over the place, and it kept on coming back to the fact, and I kept on hearing this quote of this guy's making money for scratching his balls, because he had such a big problem with another meal plan company. And when the owner came in here, he was extremely rude to him. And I had a huge problem with that. It's like, you're 57 years old. Be an adult. Be professional. This guy isn't doing this to screw you over. He doesn't want this to be happening either. Show him the professional of courtesy. Even if you're frustrated with the situation, pause for a moment and understand that nobody made this happen to you. It's not anybody's fault. Like, there's no malicious intent anywhere except for what you're projecting out there. You're making it seem like this guy's coming in and taking advantage of our company when he's really giving us an opportunity for us both to win. His company gets some rest, recovery, and gets to buy some time, and we make some profit in an otherwise very slow time of the year. So anyway, tried talking him off the ledge, tried calming him down, tried bringing him back in and getting him to understand the value of this opportunity. And again, it was like I was talking to a wall. So I came back in. We actually had one of our purveyors here, a guy we've got a really good relationship with, and my business partner was already telling him what was going on and how the chef was making it so difficult. And this purveyor had some concerns about chef as well. He's like, there's been cuts of different, types of chicken that I've offered to bring you guys, and it would save you money here, and it's the same quality. It would just, take a little bit of extra trim work, but you'd end up with the same level of product, just a cheaper price, because the portions would be different, they'd be more random. So in any case, he said, I'm not sure this guy is really looking out for what's best for you. And we had some conversation, and he basically said, an executive chef shouldn't be behaving this way. I was already concerned that he doesn't want to change up any of the products that he's working with, because he just doesn't like change, regardless of the fact that it could save your company $100,000 a year. And we're like, wow, this is the first we've heard of it. He's like, yeah, I've brought him samples for this, that, and the other thing. In any case, he said, I'm already concerned. And now the way that he's operating with you guys and making this worse with some really common sense stuff that doesn't need to be that much harder, I've got the perfect guy for you. So we didn't really take it too seriously, but he said, I know this guy for 30 years. He's an amazing chef, super calm guy. And as soon as this guy really wants to jump, let him jump. So everyone ends up staying late that night. Chef probably left a little bit after 6 and left our sous chef and some other people in the kitchen to finish up the mess that he basically created. And I think he realized when he left how much he fucked us by plating separately. Because you only have so much space in our facility. There's only so many bodies that we can bring in. There's only so many extra hands before now people just don't have room to work. So it doesn't matter. This building could have been full of people, and we got to the point where we didn't need anybody else to come because we had nowhere else for them to work. Every single inch of counter space was taken up. Even our chest coolers were used as tables for plating. So we got to a point where, because we were having the same meals plated twice, we had all these different plating operations, and unfortunately got to the point where Fit Food Fresh was already so far ahead on so many items that they had already plated that these items still had to be plated. They unfortunately just couldn't be plated at the same time because so many meals were already taken care of. So we're plating, the other company's employees are here plating, and I think Chef realized it was going to be a long night, that his team was going to be very frustrated and beat up from having to stay late at night. And he sent us a resignation at a little after 7. And we just didn't respond. We saw it as him kind of, just stepping out on the ledge, looking for some intention, looking for us to be more focused on, no, don't leave us, please come back, so that we would be distracted and maybe less inclined to reprimand him for screwing this up so obviously. And we just didn't care. We were so burnt. It's like we wanted to call his bluff. We knew we were bluffing. So anyway, my business partner Steven reached out to the food vendor that evening and let him know that we would be interested in meeting with his chef friend as soon as he's available. And we set something up for the next day at 11. Now, normally chef would be in on a Thursday doing inventory and receiving for our next cook, but he decided to do the orders from home, which meant that he didn't do inventory and he was ordering blindly. But fortunately, that meant that he also didn't bump into the chef who came to interview, who unfortunately was going right to his current job, and that meant that he was already dressed out in full chef gear, and there was no way to mistake him for anything other than an executive chef interviewing for a job at Fit Food Fresh. The interview went very well. He was a very accomplished chef, and it gave us a lot of confidence to know that what we've built here is appreciated, and it's not just us being crazy. This is a great environment to work in. This is an awesome kitchen to work in. This is an amazing business and an awesome opportunity for a chef who wants to be creative, a chef who's a good leader and wants to, have an environment where, they do a lot of numbers. It's a high count, it's a high volume, but I tell people it's like a hurricane. You see it coming. You're not surprised by it. It's not a tornado that's just popping in your restaurant 5 minutes before you close, and it's an 18 top that wants all well done steaks. You start cleaning up the kitchen, too bad, time to make a mess again. This is a controlled environment where you know what the numbers are, you purchase and prepare and schedule and plan ahead of time, and you're able to see exactly whatever you predict unfold exactly as you plan it. There's no surprises. There's no numbers increasing or any waiters in your service window screaming about something being late or overcooked or undercooked or whatever else. It's a perfectly controllable environment. So for the right leader, this is an amazing opportunity, and that's something that we're glad is recognized by other chefs, especially with our reputation locally. It made us feel really good to see someone that excited about taking on this potential available position. Admittedly, we weren't 100% sure that we were going to be parting ways with the chef yet, but it at least made us feel very confident in being able to do so. Reached out to chef through email, tried calling him and texted him to let him know that the other company did in fact need us to do another round of production. We weren't 100% sure, and in fact, even at that point, I basically had to tell the company, either you tell me yes right now or the answer is no, because we can't get our orders in any later. We can't do late orders again. It screwed everything up. So the company basically committed before they wanted to. They wanted to kind of play it at the last minute. They didn't understand what a headache getting the materials in late was. But we did get them to commit. They did add orders through Friday, but at least we had that commitment, so we knew that that was going to be in production. And chef told us that he refused to do any orders for the other company. So just with some quick thinking, we decided, okay, let's just call our purveyors. He's already put in the orders, and let's just tell them to double every order that we've already put in. So at least we'll have closer to what the real numbers are going to be, because this company is the same size as ours. People are pretty much the same. If they're interested in this item, it's pretty much everybody in South Florida is probably going to have the same amount of interest in that item. So we were pretty accurate at just doubling the orders blindly, but not 100% accurate. So Friday morning rolls around and the executive chef doesn't show up. He's not responding to text or phone calls. And we basically look at each other and go, okay, so we've just doubled our production. This is the highest amount of production we have ever done. And now we've got no executive chef. I sent him a bunch of texts begging him to come in, telling him that he was letting down his team and that there's a lot of hardworking people here who deserve to have a leader who will get them through any situation and not abandon them like this. Now, we huddled the team together. We have a few pillar members of our team who we know are more influential than others. So it was very important that we had their support and their understanding in this situation. They saw that the chef had kind of abandoned them. They weren't feeling too good. we kind of explained to him the situation. They knew it was one of our slow seasons. They understood that it's best for the company. They understood that it sucked. But fortunately, we had enough people on the team who vocalized the fact that they needed to focus on a solution. And while everybody else was griping, that kind of helped turn the direction of the team to focusing more on how we're going to get this done, what we needed. We knew that we needed more bus tubs and sheet pans. We definitely needed some more hands. So we communicated, and I tried to coordinate and get as many people in as possible to help with plating and prep and all of the other things that were going to become twice as hard to accomplish during the same period of time. I don't know if it was my text begging him to come in and that the team needed him, or the fact that he found out we actually doubled the order so there would be enough food to actually try to pull this off with. But Chef ended up coming in somewhere around noon or 1, I believe, to help us out. We were honestly just so appreciative to have the extra body that at that time I was just focused on making him happy. I wasn't addressing his resignation or anything else like that. I just wanted him to feel like we had his back, and if he was willing to come in and help guide this team across the finish line, I was going to do whatever he needed. And that was me driving around and buying every single box of gluten-free pancake mix and Boca. We ran out and bought sheet trays. We ran out and bought bus tubs. We ran out and bought cutting boards and all sorts of stuff. And I was driving around way into Friday evening, making sure that we can get as much stuff as possible. And I was here bright and early on Saturday as well, because I knew it would be pretty brutal. So Saturday was also like 6 a.m. to midnight, and I spent the entire day driving around. I think I went to Restaurant Depot 3 times. There's an entire video on it if you haven't seen it. Cheney, Cisco, Costco, all over the place. I was doing plating towards the end of the day and way into the evening. And again, Chef left at around 6 on Saturday. I was able to tell that he was drinking. The guys had some beers for lunch, and I think Chef was drinking a bit more than that. And by about 7:30, it seemed like he had some liquid courage, and he decided to text my business partner and I and tell us that he needed 1,000. He said he started it off with, okay, so here's the deal. Wrong way to start. You're going to pay me $1,000 for each of the last 2 cooks, plus a fee per meal for every meal moving forward. He also wanted that $2,000 in a cashier's check the next day, which is a Sunday. I don't know where he thought we were going to get a cashier's check. And my business partner and I, again, just kind of looked at each other and we're just like, we're just not going to respond to this. So I told him, you know what, Chef, take some time to think about this. We'll talk later. And kind of left it at that. We then walked into the kitchen and spoke with the team that was already staying later than their leader. We spoke with the sous chef, and we asked them if they felt that they could finish off this cook without our chef. They were very concerned. They were concerned about some other people who they felt had loyalties to the chef and would just straight up quit if the chef wasn't there. We went through that, but at the end of the day, after some discussion, they felt that they could pull it off without the chef. So at that point, we told the chef that we accepted his resignation and that we didn't need him anymore. On Wednesday, he told us that he would work through the 22nd. So we basically just let him know that the remaining days weren't needed. And I think I told him that his help was appreciated, but no longer necessary. So Sunday rolls around. Sunday I did 24 hours. I knew it was going to be rough, so I started again at 6 in the morning, and I basically did shopping through the morning. Then I helped with plating and right on through bag packing. I was so happy that not only did we get our delivery drivers out relatively on time, they weren't too late, maybe an hour late, but most importantly, I didn't have to do a delivery route, because if the deliveries went too far behind, I would have to do a delivery route, and that would be brutal and extremely dangerous. Now, mind you, this whole week, I'm not really eating. I'm driving around, working crazy late. I think I lost about 6 pounds that week just because I was at such a crazy caloric deficit, and that's with eating pizza and stuff that we were having for the plating nights. I just couldn't get enough calories in with all the running around I was doing. I was logging like over 20,000 steps on my Fitbit every day. And the 24-hour day was actually interesting because it obviously just gave me a really poor grade for sleep or for rest, and started counting my steps all over again, not knowing that I was actually up the whole time, not sleeping, just packing bags while it thought I was sleeping. Now, this whole time we had this very familiar feeling of stress that we've had in so many different instances throughout our business's history, where you're like, wow, did I kill my company? Is this what does us in? After all of this, is this what finally does in my company? And this time it was the same stress, but obviously same breed of stress, but much more potent. But this time, instead of just our company, I was thinking, oh my God, did I kill 2 companies with this move? Fortunately, food went out late, but it did go out safe, and everyone did enjoy the food that they had. Both companies survived. We had to go through some other issues with having to kind of pep talk a few of our pillar members and really make them feel solid that they can do this work without the chef. We basically had to have a conversation and tell them, chef is here to guide you guys, but at the end of the day, you guys have been the ones executing this amazing food. You've done it while he's on vacation for 2 weeks in Colombia. You've done it while he was at Disney for a week. You guys can run this without him. All we ask is a week. On the 16th, we have the new chef coming in. He'll be here to help out and take over everything else. But we're going to tell this company we can no longer manufacture their food. We just need you guys to stay on board with us. We were worried that they'd be, a lot of times they have a second job already, so all they have to do really is pick up more hours at that second job. And we were very concerned that we would lose some of them. Fortunately, we didn't lose anybody. We're actually very touched that we had so many people who stuck through, and they're still here for us and with us, and it's pretty amazing. But the story's not over there. So Monday, we tell the other company we're not going to be manufacturing the food. The kitchen was decimated. I've never seen this kitchen so filthy. There was just tickets and bags and containers and everything everywhere, and food left out, and it was horrendous. Our guys who normally come in to prep all day Monday didn't even get to touch their knives because they spent the entire day cleaning. They were just straight up cleaning the entire day, and they did an amazing job. Fortunately, because on Tuesday we had a surprise health inspector. Well, it's not uncommon in the culinary industry, in the restaurant business, that if someone leaves on less than ideal terms, that they report a fake issue to the health inspector. Now, I'm not saying that this happened, but our kitchen, maybe if they inspect every 6 months, we just got inspected 4 months ago. So it wasn't a 6-month routine inspection. The other thing was we also have some food handler license, and it has to show that everyone who's back there touching food has passed the food handler's course, and we have all these packets for everybody. And then there also has to be food manager on premise with their license. Now, fortunately, I have a food manager's license, and fortunately, our guys had their cards, and some of them actually had cards from a previous company and they hadn't expired yet. So fortunately, we got through and we didn't have any major issues. But it also seemed as though someone came in and took some cookie cutters, which belonged to Chef, and he hasn't been asking for them, so we're assuming he came in and grabbed them. And then the packets of everyone's certifications were also missing. So it seemed, at least to some people in the kitchen, it seemed as though their leader had basically compromised their ability to work by trying to get their kitchen shut down. Now, not only do we have a great health inspection record, but as I said, we went through the previous day and thoroughly cleaned everything. They spent the entire day doing it. So unfortunately, there was no prep done, but thank God they decided to do that instead of prep, because that saved us. Because I assure you that if he showed up Monday, this place looked like a mess. We had to throw out so much stuff. There was so much food wasted because it was just left out. But it was horrendous. It was a mess. So I'm not saying that that's what happened, but it's happened twice now where right after someone gets fired, right after there's a bad breakup, there's a health inspector come and check out our kitchen. And knock on wood, we've been solid both times, but yeah. So let's go over some of the lessons that I've learned from this, what I would have done differently. First off, if I could go back in time, I would have tried to coordinate with the kitchen better. It should have been something that they were on board with. I didn't really have a lot of time to do that. I tried my best to do that. But if there was any more effort that I could put in to avoid this whole mess, I think it'd be going all the way upstream to the heart of the issue and getting the chef to focus more on, okay, what do we have to do in order to do this? I know this sucks, but if we have to do this, which it looks like we do, what do we have to prepare for and think of and go get in order to make this not a nightmare, or at least mitigate the odds of it being a nightmare as much as possible. Overthink things. We were in the middle of cooking and they told us that we needed sheet pans. That's not the time that we should have been discovering that. Bus tubs and cutting boards and all this other stuff that we needed, we should have been overthinking every single step. Okay, when we do the chicken, now we're doing this many chickens. What's the first move? We trim the chicken. How much time is that going to take? What are the things that can't be compressed? If something has to be marinated in a bus tub for 24 hours and you only have 20 bus tubs, but you have enough chicken or protein to be marinating in 40 bus tubs, we need to think of that ahead of time. So all of these things need to be considered. Even making the soups and the sauces, we had to have enough containers. We had to buy extra containers because now we're making twice as much of everything. As I said before, you could bring on more hands to help things get done faster, but once you're taking up every inch of surface space on every single table and every single cart and every single chest freezer, you don't need any more bodies. You don't need any more hands. Now you are stuck with how fast those people can get that task done. And if you don't have extra space, that's going to become a bottleneck. If you don't have extra hands, that'll become a bottleneck. But you have to consider all of these little things and not just, oh, I'll call in 20 people. Because we had enough people here. We could have called in more, but we just didn't have the physical space. So that's another thing you got to consider. Do your most popular SKUs first. Whatever meals you have the biggest orders for, do those first. Once you get towards the end and you're just plating the least common meals, you can actually start packing bags at the same time. And then if this meal, let's say the vegan and the breakfast items got cooked and plated last, when you're packing bags and you come across a bag that has 1 or 2 breakfast meals or 1 or 2 vegan meals, you can just set that aside and know to pack it later once those SKUs are done. If you're trying to pack and you have one of the most popular items being plated or cooked last, you're going to be holding up a lot more bags than you would be if you were working from the most popular to the least popular in your production. Pack the furthest routes first. We're in Boca Raton. We basically go a little bit more than an hour in either direction. So the furthest routes are the ones that we would pack first. So that way they're ready to go and that driver can get those started because they have to be done before 6 a.m. That's another thing you can't compress. It's going to take a certain amount of time to drive a certain amount of miles and drop off a certain amount of bags. We can't expect our drivers to speed just because production's behind, right? So if they still need to be done at the same deadline, you need to be getting the guys who are going to feel the hurt first out the door. Anybody who's closer to you, all the deliveries in Boca, we pack those last because that would allow, they could make up that time a lot more easily. Their first delivery is right down the street. It's okay. If anything, we could also split that route and it'd be a lot easier for me to take some Boca routes than for me to take half of a Miami route, especially if we sent that guy out 2 hours late and now it's coming up on 5 and he's only halfway down his route. Now I would have to go and pick up part of his route, coordinate with him, and then split it up. No. It'd be much easier for me or anybody else to help with a closer route So packing those guys late is always going to behoove you. In fact, if you could come up with a list of members who can take a hit, maybe friends and family who are on the food, and you can just skip their route for today or give them their food late, or they can take some kind of a hit, make sure you can identify those people, because if you can save some time packing or doing deliveries or whatever else, in a crunch like that, it's going to be nice to take 20 people like that off your back. Make sure you order everything on time. If you're not ordering on time, things not getting into production on time. If prep falls behind, that means production's going to fall behind, which means plating's going to fall behind. And it gets really scary. There was some points where my concern was, okay, the team of people who normally comes in and helps pack bags is now helping plate food, which means by the time we're done plating food, these guys are probably going to be leaving because their shift is going to be over. So now we have no one to pack bags, and that's what happened. A lot of the people who had to pack bags were the ones who were able to stay late, and they weren't the people from the bag packing team. Those people either had to start their delivery route, or they just had to be home because they're normally going home at a certain time because of kids or whatever else. Some people are on work release. Whatever happens, if you don't have that same amount of people to be doing their job later and they're doing someone else's job earlier because that all went behind, you're going to have a cascading effect of issues and time sucks that it will just take too many bodies and too much time to make up. So now where are we at? Well, we've got a new chef. He's actually just on another level. Our last chef, Chef Fernando, was pretty amazing, but he definitely had a lot of flaws. Old dog, new tricks, that came up a lot. He wasn't very computer savvy, but he did a good job at getting us to where we are now. This next chef is going to help us operate at another level. He's familiar with high-end restaurants, high-end hotels, James Beard nominated twice, and he's also got a menu. He's one of only 12 chefs in the world who has a menu in the Smithsonian. So we did come out landing on our feet. We kind of feel it's almost poetic the way everything was written, and we went through this trial to only come out stronger and wiser on the other side. It doesn't always go like this. Fortunately, we've got a lot of experience dealing with stressful situations, and I think we had a lot of great people who helped us get through this one. And without them, without our team, without our support, without our friends and family coming in to help us, I literally had my parents and friends coming in to help us plate and pack bags. My fiance was here. Everyone was here. And without those people, as well as the diehard people we have in that kitchen and the people who are in the office coming in, staying late, coming in on their days off, staying way past, having babysitters and everything else arranged just so that they could be here to help us continue to move forward and do what we needed to do to get things done. It's amazing. And it's something that not a lot of people can experience in life. It's something that I was grateful for even in the moment, knowing that I could lose my business because of this, that everything could come crushing down on our heads. It was still an amazing and exhilarating experience, and it's not for everybody. It definitely isn't. I don't think I could have done this a couple of years ago, but we've had instances throughout our entrepreneurial careers, my business partner and I, that have gradually conditioned us to be stronger and more stoic and more resourceful and calmer in those situations. And that's really what you need. That's what you want to develop yourself into as a leader. You need to be able to navigate these situations with a level mind and focus on getting through them and not the unfortunate realities that you find yourself in. Check out any of my other stuff. I want to go into more detail about the behind the scenes stuff, not just how the business works, but also the personal aspect and the growth aspect, if that's something you guys want to hear about. If not, if you want me to save the philosophy and all the lessons, I can do that, and I'll just tell you about the equipment, the menus, and hiring and all that other fun stuff. But I think it's something that a lot of other entrepreneurs probably want to hear and know about so that you can avoid it if possible, or be prepared to endure it if it's unavoidable. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, hit the links, hit the other alerts, suggested videos, all that other fun stuff, and hit the link below. Reach out to me. I'd love to hear about your situation, see how else I can help you guys.